about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is film. As I mentioned on this blog before, and I mention on my Tumblr all the time, film is my biggest passion. It's what I want to do with my life, and I absolutely love everything about film. I spend way too much time on film blogs and reading film news and watching too many films, and you get the point. And something that really bothers me, and I see it all the time, is a sort of weird cynicism that people have with contemporary cinema, which I think is complete and total bullradish, because it's dumb. It's just dumb, because we are in such a great place in movies and in art and what is being created on a constant basis. Specifically though, I'm going to talk today about 2011 and what a great year that was in film, and how apparently I'm the only person who seems to realize this. I've read so many articles this year about how 2011 was such a bad year and how no one went to go see anything, which is true, the box office was terrible. But that doesn't necessarily gauge whether or not it was a good film. If that's the way that we decided whether films were good, a lot of the most important cinematic creations wouldn't be considered good. So box office revenue doesn't have anything to do with the quality of cinema that is being put out. I guess 2011 was a polarizing year because there was a lot of fantastic films that were made that were not particularly accessible for wide audiences, but again, I think that's complete and total crap, because that's sort of downplaying what a common audience member can have with their expectations of art and cinema and the entertainment that they consume. Something that I hate is just arbitrarily putting down people's intelligence just because we want to create this sort of division between what is pretentious and what is art and what is accessible. So to make my case, I'm going to use the Academy Award nominations as a barometer, which is not necessarily at all a good barometer to use, but it's the one that we're all sort of familiar with, and so I felt that that's how I would gauge and structure this conversation. If we look at the 9 films that were nominated for Best Pictures, we have some really incredible works there. It's also not including a lot of films that could have very well have been nominated for Best Picture that were completely snubbed. So let's break it down. Let's start with Hugo. Hugo is set in Paris. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a children's movie. It's Martin Scorsese. It's sparkling. It's about Méliès and childhood and film preservation. It's spectacular. And it's all set in this sort of steampunk-y magical realm, something that I honestly was completely blindsided by. And this coming from someone whose favorite director is Martin Scorsese. I remember when I first saw the trailer, which by the way, the marketing campaign was just terrible for Hugo. I mean, there's no denying that. And just being like, I guess I have to see Hugo because I love Marty. And then about 3 weeks before the movie came out, all the critics just started sobbing and like having a communal orgasmic experience over what a fantastic film it was, and I had to go see it right away. And I saw it opening weekend and it just completely blew my mind. It was so important and spectacular and intelligent and sweet and respectful of children, which is one of the things that I find I don't like about children's movies, is that I often find that the creators of those films, with the very notable exceptions like Pixar and recently Spielberg with Tintin, they just completely disrespect childhood and they treat it like a sort of lesser stage, which is completely inaccurate. Number 2, The Tree of Life, my personal favorite movie of the year. Now, The Tree of Life is not an accessible film at all, I guess, from what they say. Just by seeing the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, I think it has about a 50% on it, which means that 50% of the people absolutely hated it and 50% loved it. And every negative review that I've read about it never really says it's a bad film. It says it's convoluted and it's too complex and it tries too hard. Then you have critics like Roger Ebert, undoubtedly the most important American film critic of our time, who says it's better and just as important as 2001: A Space Odyssey. Not to mention that it won at Cannes. Now, whether you like The Tree of Life or whether you don't like The Tree of Life is kind of irrelevant. Much like Drive, which is another movie which was absolutely spectacular that came out this year, whether you like it or not is not the point. Filmmakers didn't make this movie for you to like it. They made this movie because they were dying to make this movie. And undoubtedly, it's fantastic in pure craftsmanship. You can't look at The Tree of Life and not say this is ambitious in every way possible. I have some people who have talked to me about The Tree of Life who told me I don't like it at all, but it's a fantastic, technically proficient film, and that's important. And again, if the most important American critic of our time is saying it's a better movie than 2001: A Space Odyssey, that alone is enough for me to dispute any kind of argument that you have saying that 2011 was a weak year. Midnight in Paris, which was so charming and beautiful, and Woody Allen, and Paris. It was just a good year to be French. So if we're gonna talk about being French, let's talk about being French. The Artist, which is a silent film. Let me repeat that. A silent black and white film made in the year 2011 by mostly French artists. And it's joyous. Joyous. It's pure joy, and it drips charisma. You're smiling. There's no way to approach that film in any other way. And there's so many fantastic darlings that came out this year that no one is even mentioning. Everyone seems to have forgotten that came out this year, like, I don't know, Harry Potter, which was amazing and could have very well have gotten a Best Picture nomination. The Help, which did get a Best Picture nomination, was a stunning little film. Moneyball was incredible. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Super 8, The Adventures of Tintin, Jane Eyre, which was completely ignored everywhere. Beginners. I mean, the list goes on and on. If there's 12 films that came out that year, 12, so that we average out one for every month, that you think were fantastic and worthwhile paying the price of the movie ticket, then I don't understand how you can be complaining about a weak year. And there was definitely more than 12 great films that came out this year. That is my rant. Stop being angry because you're going to go see shitty movies, majority of human beings, because I think that's what it is. I think you're not sitting down and doing your research, and that's why you're complaining. Because great art is out there. Great cinema is out there. And you have to realize that every time that you purchase a movie ticket, you are voting. That is the basic concept of any capitalistic society. When you have a choice in a free market and you put your resources, your hard-earned resources, in making the choice to consume something, you are voting and saying, I support this. So don't support crap if you don't like it and then start complaining about how you were robbed. There is more than enough resources on the internet for you to find out what is objectively great out there for you to consume. So do your homework and you won't be so upset about what you are watching in the theaters. This has been a rant, because movies are great, and I loved 2011 as a movie year. I'll see you on Thursday.